Ladies and gentlemen, y'all know what time it is. It's 6 p.m. Eastern on a Sunday night. We got Rice Crypto with us. That's Marcus. We'll be right back with it. Aquarian Anarchy coming at you. All right, so when I found this quote last week, I didn't even know that John Wayne had ever said this, but this is the perfect fitting quote for tonight's episode. Government has no wealth, and when a politician promises to give you something for nothing, he must first confiscate that wealth from you, either by direct taxes or by the cruelly indirect tax of inflation. And man, oh man, are we experiencing some inflation?
Just a tiny bit.
Some.
Rice, welcome back to the show. One of our favorite past guests, and we appreciate you coming back to join us again.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate the invite. Definitely looking forward to the conversation. You guys are always top notch, smart thinkers, some critical thinkers. So I appreciate the conversations.
Cool. Yeah, go ahead, Chad.
I was going to say we try. I think Marcus carries the brains for this whole operation.
Yeah.
Okay, look, if we're all going to kiss each other's asses, I'm going to get started first.
Right on. Smoker, the smooches are done.
Smoochie.
That's right. So the last time we had Rice on, there had been no crazy disease that they made up and sent out across the world.
There had been. I didn't join you until they had already released the crazy disease.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I want to say it's been within the past 2 years.
It was like a year ago or something.
But those 2 years feel like
an eternity.
5, 6, maybe 10. Yeah,
it feels like equal parts 20 years ago and last month.
It's
in
weird
some
because
ways. It depends on what you're talking about.
Yeah, because some things, it seems like just yesterday when time flies by, and then other things is like molasses and just drips. So it's like this weird multiverse that we live in with multiple simulations of time happening all at once.
For
Absolutely.
Sure. So either way, lots of shit has happened in the last couple years since you were on before, and man, is it yeah,
I'm getting prepped for Armageddon, man.
Right.
Mad Max is coming into style again.
So beyond all that, Rice, what are your thoughts? And welcome, Nicco, by the way.
Is he frozen? Oh, okay, he moves.
So what are your thoughts on the past couple of years?
The past couple of years?
Mm-hmm.
The past couple of years, I mean, we've had a lot going on. I mean, we can look at what happened with the pandemic issue. We can look at economics. We can look at sociology with all the division and stuff that's been going on with all the various movements that have taken place over the past few years. And then you can look at what's going on with the bigger picture with your World Economic Forums and Davos and what's happening with IMF, with the European central banks, with the Federal Reserve, which kind of goes into a little bit of the economics, but it's all one big picture. I really feel like everything is happening for a reason, and it's not because it's natural. Obviously we have to be a little bit careful using YouTube about what we can and cannot say. We have to appease the YouTube overlords.
That's right.
So, it's to get my full opinion about everything 100%, would be probably causing the channel a lot of problems. But I definitely don't feel like this is natural. I feel like this is very much a plan, especially when you look at all the previous simulation of events that are very similar to our pandemic and how they took place soon after a lot of those simulations, which were a lot of people that attended these events were very powerful world leaders, elite individuals, and yeah, it's kind of weird. And then obviously what's weird about that whole time period and where we are now is we just saw the wrap up of the World Economic Forum Davos meeting, which was supposed to be in January. They got pushed off. And the Bilderberg, that's maybe still going on. We're about to end. Yeah. Which shout out to Luke Radowski from We Are Change, because he's out in DC covering that. I didn't even know about that happening. It's almost like the World Economic Forum stuff overshadowed that.
Yeah, and that says something.
It really does, because Bilderberg was what we would have thought of as like the elite club, but it feels like it's taken a few notches down, and Davos has kind of become that top club that people want to be a part of: the rich, the wealthy, the powerful, the 1%ers.
Well, that's like their cosplay cons, though. Like there's so many of them. It doesn't mean that they can't go to all of them, or at least mix and match and pick which ones they're going to this year and which ones they're going to go to next year.
Yeah, I don't think the elites are very limited to which elite parties they go to.
Yeah. Hey, Nicco, I think you're like either not, your microphone's not connected.
Yeah, it's
or
not.
something.
It's not getting your right mic.
You're talking through your.
That's happened to me a lot recently, where my settings have been changed in the StreamYard and on my computer. I did an interview and didn't even find out that my mic was using the mic from my camera until I was doing the edit of the video. The guest didn't have the audacity to tell me my mic sounded like shit, which I would have much appreciated.
We had that with we had Reed Coverdale on a few months back, and he afterwards he's like, "Man, my mic wasn't connected," and I was just like, "I just thought that was your setup, and it was that bad because he was in his truck." I was like, "I just thought that was the best you could do because you're in your truck," and I didn't want to be a dick and be like, "Hey, man, your sound sucks."
Well, if you see this in front of somebody, yeah, that sounds a lot better. If you see a mic like this in front of somebody and it sounds like how he sounded before he changed the settings, then you know that something, and you know to say something to somebody. That's only common courtesy. So I'm not going to say who that was I was interviewing, but that was not cool with him.
So I have a mic as well, but it's over here. So like it's off camera. So you wouldn't, you know what I mean? Like if you don't know and you've only, I was appearing on an interview for the first time, you wouldn't know. But I want to touch in on what you were talking about with these different, high level meetings, let's call them. And this, the simulations and the different things that have transpired and how it may not all be necessarily economic. I tend to, I look at economics as part of what I think is a grander, just like a control and power consolidation.
Our monetary system, our banking system,
monetary
system,
exactly.
not necessarily economics in general, but what you're saying, because the central bank with the Federal Reserve, you can obviously see since they got in power, in control of the currency for the United States since 1913, we've been in a complete decline ever since. So that's obviously been the strategy. It's still wealth from people. Sorry to interrupt.
Well, no. I mean, but I think that's been, and I think if you go back, and that's why, like, I know you got to meet him at the Bitcoin conference in Miami. Our good friend Hotep Jesus, his book, The Patriot Report, kind of goes into like a lot of this stuff is just like iterations of like the new way to skin the cat of fleecing the regular schmegular people and enslaving them. When you realize that it's hard to like physically enslave people, you have to find other more subtle and more gentle and acceptable means of enslaving people. And so that's part of, to me, that seems like it's part of the mechanism, and the monetary system is just the grandest way to really kind of hide all that stuff. Like the John Wayne quote mentioned, that taxation through inflation is the best way to just kind of sneak it past people, because eventually your wages come up, but it takes some time and you end up paying through the nose before that.
Right. But this has been happening, slowly for quite, for all of our lifetimes.
Right.
Everyone on this show, every year, but people didn't start to notice or really care until it became more than the little bit that it was previously, the 2 to 3% that they were aiming for. But the system, like you said, I mean, when you talk about modern slavery, if you don't do something to participate in the commerce game, then you're not really going to be able to survive in the real world. You have to participate, and participating in the commerce game, which is debt-based, makes you a slave to debt. And it's just this never-ending cycle. I mean, now with the entire global debt, I think it would take more time than we have to be able to pay that debt off. and the system just keeps stacking more debt on more debt on more debt. It's just continuing, and it's getting to the point where it's like that a reverse Jenga board. Instead of pulling out the piece, it's just building it up until it's going to tumble. When is that one piece going to make that whole puzzle fall over?
Right.
Do you honestly think that there will be something very soon that makes people revise or rethink about economics? Granted, this bullshit's been happening for the past 2-3 years, and it's taken a while for people to open their eyes up to what's been happening. Do you think something recent is going to occur for people to really open up their eyes? Like gas is $5.54. Like that shit's stupid.
Right. Well, when we see a national average of $5 is when things are really going to start to be alarming for people. We haven't quite hit the national average, but we're getting there. I mean, it's a question. I mean, the Federal Reserve and the central banks can continue to do things to try to keep this game going. But in 2008, I mean, it basically came to an end and they put it on life support. And now they're trying to deal with that life support entity right now. Now we hear the talk about the Great Reset. We're hearing about CBDCs, which was also mentioned at the World Economic Forum Davos meeting. Interoperability between CBDCs, which is programmable tracking and tracing, no privacy currency that's issued by banks. They could easily switch over to a digital system and have a little bit more control over things. But again, how long will that last? How long can they keep this thing going on? And how long do they want to keep it going on? But at the same time, it just, I've started to come to the realization of some things. Like, I am not a fan of the Fed. And I'm not saying the enemy of your enemy is your friend in this situation by any means. But the Federal Reserve and the New York Stock Exchange, what we think about with Wall Street, seems to be fighting what the IMF and the ECB, the European Central Bank, are trying to do in conjunction with the World Economic Forum, which is going towards globalism. Also you see that Russia is kind of fighting that effort as well. So it's kind of interesting to think about that part.
So how much of this takedown do you think is intentional? And if you think that any of it is intentional, who do you think is responsible for it?
Takedown of what? What do you mean?
The economy in general, that battle that you were talking about.
It would be entities like the World Economic Forum, which has had global infiltration of politics into different nations.
Sure. Do you think
that was one of the goals of the World Economic Forum, was to bring these young global leaders in, get them kind of conditioned and on the same page with their mindset. And the more individuals that have that mindset that are in political positions, the more it helps to align that ideology globally. And that's where they go towards that globalization effort, where someone like, Rand Paul, he's, a lot of people think he's turned into like some crazy guy, but he seems to be one of the most level-headed, critical thinkers out there right now of everything that's going on.
Absolutely.
So it's completely planned, but it's just the wealthy. I can't point it towards any one individual or one group, because even if you're Davos, you have interconnections, because you have your Bilderbergs, you have all these different things, but it's the wealthy elite, the corporatocracy, that's trying to maintain and keep control.
I was really impressed by your recent, your recent interview with Mark Passio and his analysis of the occultocracy. I really like that word for two reasons.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
That's what I was telling him. That's why I was like, I got to use this in the thumbnail and the title and everything.
Right.
Like all the time. Because it covers everything.
Yeah.
Not only does it talk about and kind of inform the idea that there are people who are involved with the occult, with direct, like, whether you want to call it black magic or whatever you want to call it.
Well, anything that's hidden from
Correct.
the mainstream, the normal world that we know of, because the word occult doesn't necessarily just hidden. It doesn't mean it's not a negative connotation necessarily. A lot of people associate it with something negative. Sure. I just wanted to clarify.
No, but it's a great word for that reason, because it means exactly what this aptly describes, all of that hidden background, deep state, whatever you want to call it. The other thing that makes it great is that no one else is using it, so it's not a buzzword yet that gets you banned from anything.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's great in that sense too.
So
Well, so with stuff like that too, where I'm not sure about what to say and what not to say, I really try to speak more in parables and use code language.
Descriptions, right?
Trying to speak like Christ. Christ in public would speak in parables, and in private he would speak plainly.
Yeah, there you go. Wow, that's brilliant. That's well.
And there's a purpose in that. So I mean, it's almost as if possibly the entity that we know of as Yeshua, Jesus, could have been self-censoring himself in public so that he wasn't putting himself in any more jeopardy than he already was doing.
I think he knew. Well, the script was written, but it was to make sure that it happened in the time that it was meant to happen in, and not before some of the gems that he needed to drop on the people in private needed to be dropped.
Right.
So I think that is a really good description, and because we talk about the Bilderbergs and we talk about Davos and we talk about all that shit. That's if we see it, that's not who's in charge. These people are smart enough to keep themselves out of the limelight.
Out of the light. Yep.
Yeah, and because these people function in darkness.
Well, a good example is, and I want to say Swedish, but maybe German. I'll go with German because he sounds German. A German economy college professor had some idea about trying to bring together different entities, wealthy people, and things like that. Had no political influence. Nobody knew who this individual was. And it's this individual we know today as Klaus Schwab. How do you go from being...
He's Swiss, isn't he? I think he's Swiss.
I was thinking Swiss, but I wasn't sure. He sounds German as hell. But
Schwab sounds German.
So I was thinking he was German, but Swiss was coming to mind too. So it was one of the two. But again, how does this economist professor at a college that nobody necessarily is familiar with become what he is today? And so and even early on be able to get in the ear of all these important people to get what became the World Economic Forum, because it had a different name when it first formed, but what became the World Economic Forum to become what it is today. There's no way it was just him. There has to be somebody behind helping to push the buttons, helping to pull the strings. And those are the people that we don't know about. That's that occultocracy.
Yeah.
He is German, by the way.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the correction.
You were correct. I'm correcting myself because
at first I thought Swiss, and then I did go with German. So, but I knew it was one of the two.
Yeah.
But he sounds so German when he talks.
Yeah.
It's like listening to Rammstein in a cappella.
Red Skull.
Du hast.
For sure. I'll tell you what, though, the comparisons to him and any dictator are hysterical. That's all I have to say about that dude, because he just fits the he is that.
Yeah,
he needs
that
he
really
just needs
cool
a
costume he was wearing with that really wicked like robe. It had like the leather. I mean, it was pretty nice. Like
the only thing he's missing is a hairless cat. Seriously, he's only missing the hairless cat. And
why are hairless cats deemed evil? Like,
because it's Dr. Evil, man. It's a
right,
Dr.
Evil
Evil thing.
Like, you didn't watch.
I understand that. No,
Austin
like
Powers?
I understand Austin Powers, but like a hairless cat though, y'all could have chosen a Rottweiler or like.
Listen, a hairless cat is unnatural and scary as shit. So
let's just give him a squirrel monkey. Let's have a bald squirrel monkey.
Yeah, for sure.
Bro, have you ever seen a bald raccoon? I have some scary shit right there.
That sounds like I don't even know if I would be able to
what
determine
backwoods
if it
of
was a
Louisiana have
raccoon.
you been through?
Right.
To see a ball.
I don't remember what it was.
That's a pastime activity. We like to catch raccoons and shave them.
I do know somebody who used to sell the pelts, and they had to shoot raccoons with a pellet gun, and you had to shoot them through the eye so that you wouldn't damage the pelt.
Yeah, wow. I heard there were some vicious ass
that
kids who was just murking squirrels left and right. just for
That was in
squirrel pelt.
Livonia, Louisiana. Shout out to Livonia.
Shout out to those Louisianans.
Oh yeah, where your
And
kids knew how
Popeye's
to
chicken.
shoot a gun at 5 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not common in Chicago. We get demonized for 5-year-old shooting guns.
My kids go bass
Are you in
fishing off the
Chicago?
back porch.
Yes, sir.
Wow, and you're still alive.
Yeah, and black. That's a double entendre.
Wow, I didn't want to add that part. 'cause I'm
I
white.
added it for you.
Or at least
Nico's
people look at
Nico's
me and
black.
they think I'm white, so I got to act like I'm white just for those.
I
people.
was informed I talk white,
my
so
God.
I'm safe.
Okay.
I'm black from the waist down again today.
Bro, shut up. It really gets old. Like, it was funny the first time.
I
It's
know,
not
that's
funny
why I keep
anymore.
doing it.
No, but it gets less funny.
It's
That's
okay,
what I'm saying.
Marcus.
I
I'm
know,
black
that's
from the
why I
waist
keep
down
doing
too.
it.
That's the exact kind of humor I have, though. I like to rub where it just gets raw.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
oh baby, I like it raw.
Okay.
Oh baby, I like you raw.
I
Shout
like
out
to treat it more
ODB.
like one of those power-ups on a video game or whatever. You gotta recharge it. It has to wait until it's recharged all the way before you can.
Oh,
deploy
Nicco,
it
check
again.
it out, man. When I'm going out to Austin tomorrow, and Method Man, METHOD man's
Oh,
going to
yes,
be out there
sir.
speaking, and
Awesome.
Capadonna's going to be there, and also Big Boy.
Oh,
Fun.
cool. Hey,
Well, they're all into crypto, so I plan on I definitely want to be
Oh,
talking
damn,
to
wait. Are those,
METHOD
like,
man.
all leaders or like all presenters. Are you going to something that like revolves around Bitcoin and they're going to be speakers?
Yeah, I'm going to be going to Decentral and Consensus. So at Decentral, Method Man and Capadonna are supposed to be speaking in some capacity. Kevin Smith.
Oh, I rock with Kevin Smith. I love
He's
Kevin
going to be
Smith.
speaking. He's going to be speaking. And then at Consensus, I saw Big Boy was going to be speaking. And there's some other, 2 Chainz. 2 Chainz.
2 Chainz is smart as fuck with people.
So yeah, you got a lot of these hip hop artists that are
Yeah, I like
definitely
that.
recognizing the potential of what cryptocurrency has to offer. So,
Oh, so they're good. It's a
since I was
crypto.
throwing out some hip hop
Yeah,
references,
no,
I had to.
that's what like so like the last one I remember Wendy O said like Snoop Dogg was going there. So a lot of mainstream rap artists are going
What's that,
that I know of.
Jim Jones, he goes to a lot.
Mm.
He's I've seen him. He's been at a lot of events.
See,
Big
when I
Boy,
think something different when Jim Jones comes up.
it's Jim Jones,
Don't
right?
drink-
That's his name, right? The guy who
don't
gave his
drink
number,
the
the
Kool-Aid.
guy from
Yeah,
Texas
uh-huh.
who gave his telephone number out. You guys
Yeah,
remember
Marcus
that?
is talking about the other Jim Jones.
I know.
The
I'm
one
just
from-
making sure I get the name right. I didn't confuse it with the Kool-Aid Man.
Is it Jamestown? No, what's it? What town is it? Fuck, I can't remember. Now I'm messed up. Anyway, y'all know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about.
I don't know how I'm sorry for
Jonestown.
the music hip hop tribute, but
Nah, we do that occasionally.
I like
All of
the
us
music.
appreciate some hip hop, but so what have you been doing in your aside from talking to Mark Passio, and we'll get into Janice McAfee here in a moment, but other than that, what have you been up to? I know that, like Chad said, you went down to the crypto thing in Florida. I saw bits and pieces of that. So what have you been up to, particularly with your show that you're interested in?
Well, I mean, obviously, yeah, I've been traveling a whole lot. Haven't traveled the past few months just because I was traveling so much before, and I had made a lot of trips to Miami because Miami is just very crypto friendly, and there was a lot of crypto conferences and
Nice.
stuff going on. So I try to attend those in-person events so I can connect with people and then network as well. But as far as my channel, I mean, I've got 3 different shows on one channel. I have the Rice Crypto Show covering crypto and blockchain, the Rice Report covering economics, politics, current event news, worthy stuff, and then Stranger Than Fiction, which covers fringe topics, some things that people call conspiracies, go down the lines of spirituality, which you've been on my show talking about before, in addition to history, law, because I mean, really the overall theme of what I do is sovereignty and freedom. Crypto is just one of those tools that get us to that sovereignty and freedom, but it's more the financial end, is not the actual sovereignty end. So I've been, really trying to study a lot of things about that. Been dealing with a lot of censorship. Been learning how to play a better game with it. Haven't gotten any strikes since February. I've maintained at least 1 strike since April of 2020 until February 7th of 2022, which
That's good.
Wow.
That's good shit.
And I've been bringing on some guests that are crazy.
Yeah, that's the thing that's tough sometimes, right? It's
Yeah,
you try to draw between the lines, and then somebody else comes out there and they're like, "Fuck your lines."
Well, if I'm putting a controversial guest on whose YouTube channel is still up, and he's able to communicate that information on his channel, then it should be safe. Should be.
Oh, I see.
Wow.
This guy Godfrey Bloom was a member of the European Parliament. A lot of crypto people and people in economics have heard some of his rants and speeches because he just calls out the banking system, says that it's all fraud, and that bankers and politicians should be arrested and hung or hanged.
Oh, damn.
Hanged
Well, that's a little critical.
That's a good start.
Well, and I've actually,
that's the sort of thing that you used to be able to say 300 years ago.
Well,
but
he says it.
You know,
He
they
says
tarred
it.
and feathered people.
It's on his YouTube channel. It's on
Does
my
he not?
YouTube channel.
So he don't say it in pig Latin. It's just straight.
No, he says it very straight up. Like, and I actually took the clip from him in the European Parliament where he says that people should storm this building and hang every single one of you, and you deserve it.
Well, I mean,
and the video was able to be monetized. There hasn't been an issue. What's up, Sean? Sean's a good friend of mine.
What's the censure? Like, I understand, like, America only displays only certain type of news, and Europe only displays a certain type of news. What's their censorship over there compared to over here? Is it any different, or is it all along the same lines in general?
I don't know. I haven't actually spoken to a lot of people, but I would imagine that we probably have it the best. Being that we have this thing that people don't technically recognize called the Constitution and our Bill of Rights and our Declaration of Independence. Actually, and this is so crazy. This happened to me on Friday night. I made a post, and I've been sharing it on Instagram, and I shared it on Twitter and a couple other social media platforms. I was posting a direct quote from Thomas Jefferson from a picture. It talks about government and tyranny. And it's a real quote.
It's the blood of patriots and tyrants, or
no? I can pull it up.
Okay.
And then I also pulled a quote from the Declaration of Independence, which talks about the abolishment of governments and our right to do that and our reason for doing that. So whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it and institute new government. That's from the Declaration of Independence. And then the quote that I had, the quoted picture, was when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. These are known quotes. This is historical information.
Those are like gentle quotes too, if you're being straight, you know.
Yeah, but
there's some much worse ones.
Wow,
really?
False information. Declaration of Independence, man.
False information? Holy shit. Well, speaking of false information, apparently we have been corrected. Mike Jones, Canon Hotep says.
That's why I thought Jim Jones was wrong. I knew I was
like,
the Canon Hotep.
Thank you.
Shout out to Canon Hotep. Y'all go check out
everybody knows I'm not a perfect individual. My memory is not 100%. I take advantage of lots of medicinal cannabis, and I'm 47 years old, so I can remember my name.
There you go. Look, why do you think we have 3 hosts? We can't remember shit.
No. Right. Right. It takes all 3 of us. Just
touche.
So it is, as we've covered, it's been an interesting year. It's been an interesting couple of years. And one of the things that has happened in the past year or so was the death of John McAfee. If anybody did not know, they live in a cave and do not know that the government, at least of Spain, was, and this is me saying this, I'm not saying this for Rice, I'm not saying it for anybody else, but at least the government of Spain was complicit in the murder of John McAfee. And recently you were lucky enough to have Janice McAfee, his wife, on your show and had a fantastic interview. If anyone doesn't know Janice, I had the pleasure of speaking with Janice when I was the press secretary for Adam Kokesh. She's an amazing and very kind individual, and I really enjoy her energy and who she is. So would you like to comment about John and maybe your interview or anything about that topic?
Yeah, well, one, I was gonna say, if you didn't say what you had already said, I mean, you already have like a little bit of insight in the situation, because working with Adam, one of the suggestions that I had with my mini interviews with Adam, you know, which you helped me with, that's how we became friends,
Sure.
was suggesting at one point, several points, because both him and McAfee, John McAfee, were running for president with the Libertarian Party, and I'm like, why don't you guys team up? That happened at the very end. I got to do the one and only interview. So I know that you've had interactions with both Janice and John, but more of Janice because Janice deals with that kind of stuff for John. So
Right.
what you may not have heard, Chad, and what Nicco didn't hear is, so I had the opportunity to interview John McAfee more times than anybody in the world in single interviews. There's been plenty of people who are writing books, doing other kind of things where they have more film footage. But as far as official interviews, I have that title, you know, and it's one thing that I'm really proud of. And John, you know, is very welcoming for that. And because I developed a little bit of a relationship with both Janice and John, after John's passing, I had been staying in contact with Janice to make sure she's been all right, just to look out after her, because she's been staying in Spain, which is where she's at right now by herself, because John's body hasn't been released. So I was telling Marcus, I went through a period of time while she was grieving and talking to me, going through a vetting process to a point that I was asked by her and individuals working with her to help her to prepare for interviews. So I was asked to kind of coach her and be her sparring partner. And that interview that came out publicly was our 4th recorded interview. The other ones won't come out in any sense publicly. I was just trying to help her to get prepared for it, and even shifted the style of interview, because the first interview sounded like two friends catching up. We're going to do a follow-up that's going to have more of that vibe, where we're kind of getting into how they met, clearing up a bunch of rumors, celebrating the life of John McAfee. But, and you said you had this pulled up, Marcus. There's the main purpose with Janice doing the interview and coming out publicly, because there's no reason for her to do this. They have not released John's body. John died on June 23rd, 2021. Today's June 5th. So 18 days will be 1 year. They haven't released his body. Now, I went through all the different things that could be causing a delay. I'm not going to jump into that because it's a long discussion. People should check out the interview. But regardless, human rights, regardless of what you think about John McAfee, you know, how would you like your body to be delayed for almost a year, up to a year, beyond a year, for there to be closure? But not only closure, she wants to get an independent autopsy, which is the most important thing. And with his body, we don't know how well the body is being preserved. So we don't know what kind of damage is being done to the body before there could be an independent autopsy. And the reason why there needs to be an independent autopsy is because McAfee was very, very outspoken about not being suicidal and not having any intention to kill himself. He went on the run having charges from the IRS for tax evasion. Then after he got arrested, he got charged with SEC with a bunch of violations, securities violations. Now, he was 75 years old, but even with those charges, he wasn't looking at being in prison for the rest of his life. So it wasn't like John was in prison, was like, oh, I'm going to be in prison forever and I'm never going to get out. I'm just going to kill myself. He said that if anything happened to him, and the same thing that happened to the guy that owns the islands with the questionable reputation that Jeff Berwick and Luke Rudowski went on to.
The other one who didn't kill himself. Yeah.
Yeah, the other one. Yeah, that would happen to him. And so the media reported that John committed suicide and hanged himself. When they found John wasn't dead. So if John wasn't dead when they found him and they had to try to revive him, where was the suicide, hanging yourself aspect? If anything, from a responsible point of view, it would be complications from attempted. It's a messed up situation. But the Spanish authorities are saying that he committed suicide.
Yeah.
And we know John said he wouldn't. So,
well, not only did he say he wouldn't, he said that they would try to say that he did. That's the thing. When
right.
You know, like
he
that's
got the whack tattoo. So with them
right.
not releasing the body to allow for an independent autopsy and closure, you gotta question why.
Right.
I mean, like, it just doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
It, you know, and it doesn't make sense that this has been buried and nobody's talking about it.
Right.
You know, like if John McAfee inspired anybody who's watching this, like if there was anything he said that made you say, well, I'm so glad he said that, you know, you need to stand up for that. If you care about people, you care about rights of humans, if you care about yourself, I mean, we need to be looking out after human rights, and to keep a body this long. And then the other thing is, there's no official autopsy, no death certificate, no cause of death officially released, nothing in real capacity. So all of the charges that he has in the United States with the IRS and SEC, those cases are still open. And then you have idiots who are pretending to be John McAfee on social media, on like Truth Social and in Telegram groups, and they're not John McAfee.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as far as I can tell, from the best of my knowledge, without me being there, John's dead. You know, it sucks to say that. You know, Janice said she, of all the people, she would want him to be alive more than anybody. I would second that.
Yeah.
John's not with us.
Mm-hmm.
And people are exploiting other people, making people think. And also in these Telegram groups, there's a bunch of like religious Christian rhetoric, and I love Jesus, okay, but I don't identify as a Christian, but I follow the way.
Same.
So I'm more Christian than Christians. But with that being said, John McAfee didn't believe in God. There was no spirituality or religion in John McAfee. So these groups that are sharing all this religious stuff and attaching it to a letter between P and R,
I know.
Yes.
And I do want to comment because
can you pull up the petition? Can you share it?
I've got the petition down in the notes underneath us, and so yes, we do have that. But I wanted people to note that, you know, this hasn't taken the legs that it should, because who doesn't support John McAfee? And I want to, you know, Chris, you may not know this about me, but my actual degree is in funeral service. So to put a fine point on what is going on and why this is a human rights violation is that the human body can only stand being you know, cooled, because we can't really be frozen and then be shown,
right? But that would damage, you would have cell damage and things like that.
Correct. The amount of decay that has already happened to John is enormous, regardless of if he's embalmed, regardless of all of that. So the fact that they are not allowing people, for somebody who is obviously dead, there's not any kind of like contagion that they need to be worried about, nothing like that. This is absolutely a violation, at least, of Janice's human rights to mourn her significant other. To mourn.
Well, there's also a daughter, which I bring up in the interview, but she gave up legal claim to the body because there was apparently a dispute. Also, Janice and John had gotten divorced in 2019, but for the Spanish authorities to have called Janice to identify John's body wouldn't mean that the Spanish authorities recognize her in some legal capacity.
Sure.
Whether or not she has superior claim over the daughter, but if the daughter truly gave up legal claim, that would be the only thing I can think of that would cause a delay. And apparently, like I said, the daughter has given up legal claim because there wasn't that close of a relationship. John claimed to have like 47 or 48 kids, and of those children, only one he had a relationship with. He apparently potentially spoke with one son who found out John was his dad via ancestry. And then he found out about another son through the one that contacted him because that individual contacted him to find his family. So, but yeah, there's only one child that John had relationship with. So, I mean, the whole thing with John saying that he wouldn't commit suicide and wasn't suicidal, even at his age and health deterioration, with the Spanish prison saying that he wouldn't, the media putting out that he committed suicide and hanged himself when they found him alive. It's just the whole combination of everything just doesn't look good. And, you know, so a lot of people have came and put a lot of support behind people like Ross Ulbricht from Silk Road,
As should
from
be.
Julian Assange. And it has not happened with McAfee in the way that I feel like should be. Somebody else on Twitter called out Edward Snowden. You know, not saying that Snowden's watching this, but Snowden's got some little bots crawling and like looking for his name being brought up in something. And he hears this.
Right.
I feel like someone like him has a responsibility for someone like John McAfee. Anybody who's in the intelligence area that's utilizing computer science should have a lot to thank John McAfee for. I mean, even before the creation of the antivirus thing, John was involved. This is why people were worried about the dead man switch. John was involved in a lot of black ops projects, worked for Xerox, CSC, which is a government contractor, Lockheed. I mean, this guy, and NASA, all before he created the first antivirus company, you know, and the first actual antivirus program that we utilize. So, and how many of those computers that had McAfee antivirus were donated, given away for tax write-offs to government, or even just sold to the government, you know? And John McAfee seemed to be the type of person that would have backdoors. He seemed to be a backdoor man.
Wow. Pause.
Watch out now.
I'm sure John would approve.
That's hilarious that you said that.
He's with a black woman.
Yeah.
I mean, beautiful black women are known for their beautiful badonkadonk.
Oh my goodness.
Right, Nicco? Am I not correct here? I know some white girls do as well. But if we're generalizing things,
Between you and Marcus, I don't know how we still have a channel, but here we are nonetheless. All right, I'm gonna see. I tried. I'm gonna give.
I'm
this
officially
a
a Hotep, so I'm
gonna
good.
give this. Oh, is that right? You got the. All right, so I
Hotep
did
rice.
it. I did it. I got it.
Yay.
I have successfully pulled up the
Thank you.
petition here. Yeah,
And that's
so
what I'm
there
saying.
you go.
There's
You
less
see it.
than 1,000 signatures on this thing, man.
It's a really long URL, but
I can give you the
URL
URL
is
send you the
in
shortened version.
it's in the description, so it's all good. Like we've got,
because there is a really short.
All anybody needs to do is click the link in the description, and you will be taken to this. So go in, sign that.
And there's no need to donate. Just sign and share. Don't donate. Sign and share. Like this, any donation money is going to go to Change.org, who's running the rainbow flags right now.
Right.
I would prefer you just to sign and share.
So what are you saying? You because you don't run the rainbow flag, that you must hate everybody who isn't like you.
No, I just don't support. I don't support corporate entities.
Exactly.
And Change.org is one of those. Like, I'm surprised Change.org is allowing for the free Ross petition and the John McAfee petitions to even be up.
No, that's facts. Did you notice? Have you seen the stuff where, like, if you go to Saudi Arabia, like every one of these corporations, their Saudi Arabia branch doesn't have that in their logo?
Shocker.
Like they're like, nah, like you want to sell shit here, you can't put that in there. And they're like, all right.
Right.
And so it's really like, if they really were about that life, they would put the rainbow anyway, right?
Sure.
But they're not about that life. It's
well,
about
I think
the
Ukraine
money.
Ukraine just changed their army patches to have that rainbow unicorn without the rainbow.
They did.
And I have no problem with the rainbow. I really don't have a problem with the rainbow.
That's the thing. It's like
I'm not judging people. I'm judging corporations.
You do what you want to do. I'm not here to like stop you from doing what you want to do. First of all, like, we don't need to be like having that shit like overrun schools and teach that to kids like as though it's like a supplement or a replacement for like math and reading. Like, we have some horrible records when it comes to like people being able to read and write and computate
Dude, it's getting worse
mathematical
now.
equations, but they know about how the one thing they can get right in math class is that there's no way you can determine the number of genders that there are. That's the one
More than
mathematical
pi.
proof that they can run to its full course. Anyway, it's just crazy. Like we are. It's truly, if you think about it, like it's so much less about actually teaching people the tools that they need to be able to thrive, and more about making people constantly afraid that they might offend someone.
Well, it's about conditioning. It's not
Yes,
teaching people
absolutely.
how to be self-sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we're not taught about how to.
Garden.
We're not
They took
taught
away
about
the
money.
trades.
We're not
They
taught
took
about
away
money.
the trades.
We're
Yeah,
not
for
taught
sure.
about credit. We're not, you know, like
Mhm.
I went to a college course with business administration when I was older, where I was being taught, hey, if you get a credit card, you can charge things and then pay the balance off before the actual due date, and you're not paying any interest and you're building your credit. But that's not things that we're taught in school. We're not taught things that are
Mhm.
useful and practical, things that will actually help us really in life. It's all about conditioning, you know,
Yeah.
and that's unfortunate. I mean, and that's where kind of like what's happened over the past few years, even though a lot of it's been really kind of crappy, there's
Mhm.
been a lot of like silver lining in the clouds,
Yeah.
because people are doing homeschooling now.
Yeah. Well,
You
speaking
know,
of
there's
which,
a lot of things that are starting to shift where people are starting to think differently. Like it really gave people time to contemplate.
Mhm.
And then as the beginning of this year, people were starting to kind of get tired of everything.
Yeah.
You know, and then we conveniently had the Canadian crap, then the European crap, and
then
now
Ukraine.
now
now we've got the.
I won't even say it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Which
The,
everybody sees as the nonsense that it is.
Right. But well, so I want to say like what you were talking about with homeschool, and then like the trades and things like that. So there are some off ramps. Now you've had like homeschooling has been around for forever, but there have been a lot of people who are reticent to do that because. And my wife actually, it's crazy. This has come full circle. My wife was one of them. When I suggested homeschooling our kids, she was like, "No, I'm going to end up killing one of them," because like it's just like she's a teacher too. That's a crazy part. It's like I can teach other people's kids because like at the end of the day, like they drive me nuts, but then I get to go home and be away from them. Like if it was my own kids, like I don't know if I could like go through that cycle or whatever. There are a lot of parents who feel the same way. Well, what she's doing now, she just started a new school, and it's like homeschooling, but it's these micro schools where she is having other kids go through like homeschool curriculum, and she is administering and like overseeing, just kind of like being there as like a sounding board or to help out with it and to administer it.
Like
so
a community kind of homeschooling.
Yeah, in a way, it's but the thing is, like that sort of stuff, it's not like as free, price wise anyway, as like doing it yourself. You know, you do it yourself, and the only cost is like the supplies and the materials and whatever courses that you might have to buy or anything like that, and then like you spend your own time on it. With this, when you have someone else spend the time with your kids for you, you have to, you know, she's not going to do that for free.
Yeah.
So. But there is an alternative. And like, what is she doing this summer? They're teaching, there's an entrepreneurship class and a 3D printing class and some other stuff too. So it's those types of things are available when you go out of the system, when you break out of the system and go to something that's more private and more like select, that you actually get to have a little bit more control over. The other thing I wanted to say was that with respect to how everybody kind of seemed to give up on this thing, I want to warn everyone that like the enemy has not gone to sleep. We may think that this shit is over, but this shit ain't over. They are like, I live in Louisiana.
Far.
Our state government is atrocious and tyrannical, and they are pushing hard. They're trying to push all this stuff again, they're waiting for the next wave so they can have an excuse, even if it's just like the last one where it was like we had tons of cases of like what? It doesn't matter. There's cases. So be scared. Be scared of the cases.
Yeah.
The case demic is coming at you. And so the hammers have not stopped dropping, I guess is what I'm getting at. So be alert and start building your own little systems. And that's what I wanted to ask you is like, so we talked earlier about the wealthy, and I think what you're talking about is like the extremely wealthy. Like there are a lot of people who think
you're 1%. You're 1%.
The people who live in the suburbs or who live in the gated communities, that they don't even like those people who are running Davos and all that stuff. They spit on those people too. So like,
well, no, they're trying to kill the middle class.
Exactly.
They want it to be rich and poor.
Yeah.
They don't want there to be a medium.
Yeah.
And that's what America's been about, is that medium. So
let's be clear that they don't want two classes, unless those classes are master and slave.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like
Elysium.
modern feudalism without utilizing those terms. It's just changing the words.
Can you all see the movie Elysium, where they have like the satellite planet thing that they've built in the sky that all the elites live on, and they have like all the technology that like you lay down in a little bed and it like heals your broken bones and you just get up and you're good. And all the regular people live on Earth still, where like it's a desert and it's a garbage.
Sounds like Elon and Mars.
Exactly.
You heard how he was going to try and terraform it, right? Sending some nukes up there, trying to change the atmosphere.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Radical shift.
Yeah. No, I mean he's definitely oddly forward thinking in a lot of weird ways.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is like I'm glad that what has transpired because we've started getting people to question stuff, and even movements that I don't agree with, like the letter between the P and the R.
Right.
It still got people to start researching, and it almost decentralized the research and decentralized media in a way.
For sure.
I just wish some people would try their best to cleanse their system of the Kool-Aid they drank, but.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I've said before, and my wife and I were talking about today, we talk about reality a lot and what we think is reality. The reality is that we don't have any idea what reality is. but we like to make fun of these people that think that the world is flat. We like to make fun of these people that think that the world is hollow, all those kinds of things. I don't do that. And
I appreciate the critical thinking, whether I agree or not.
Right.
Just the fact that you see this box and you're thinking outside of it.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
the box is the world and the conditioning that we've been conditioned with. So the people that are questioning anything that's what's going on, whether they're right or not, they're at least questioning.
Yeah.
Well,
they know something's not right.
And let me say something to the people who like to laugh and who say, disinformation is deadly, and the people who like fact checked your quotes from the Declaration of Independence. This is a real, like, I have to make this point. Maybe if y'all didn't suck so bad at telling the truth, people wouldn't be looking into whether the Earth is flat or not, even though you claim to have disproven that, 50, 75, 100, 300, 400 years ago. Right? Because if all the stuff that we are told is true, we keep finding like that a lot of it is lies.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
How do we not question that all of it is a lie?
Yeah. That's actually
what I'm saying?
my uncle actually is a history fanatic, and like I'm like, okay, so you go through all the history, but like you see that some of it's a lie, so why don't you question all of it? That is my argument for everything. You cannot just say, oh well, this part, the first thing I go to is, okay, so why is our history about slavery different from what's in the South? Because our history books don't match up. So therefore, if they lie about slavery in our own country, what makes you think that they don't lie about everything else? They still got African artifacts in England, in library, or not libraries, but museums, just cooling. And so like
charging you to go see them.
Right.
What sucks about what you guys are saying is, so people want to kind of question the people that think outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to the whole shape of the planet, to me, here's the only thing. You said that we know we've been lied to. So you got to question, what have we not been lied about? So
Yep.
But when it comes to that particular entity, that particular subject, where a lot of people are divided with the shape, my thing is if we were to find out one way or another it's not what we think it is, then all it does is prove that we've been lied to.
Right.
So it just backs up what we're already thinking already.
Right.
But if we found out that it was flat, round, or whatever, is it going to change anything? Like, are we going to start living any differently?
Nope.
We're going to start like acting like snakes and it's like getting on the ground, slithering and stuff, thinking we're going to fall off or something.
Finding out that it was round.
So it doesn't change a thing about the way we live. It's not one of these things that people need to like cling to, like as their self-identity. Because there's some people like, this is all I'm about. This is all I'm concerned with. And it's like, it doesn't fucking matter.
I vote we're on the back of a turtle.
We're being lied to.
Like
we're being lied to.
Yeah.
Exactly. Question everything. Trust nothing.
It's funny that you say that too, because I went to my second Orthodox Christian liturgy today, and because I've been like looking into that. I'm cradle Roman Catholic, and I've been just kind of I've been like many people in that camp, been dissatisfied to say the least with.
Is it Greek Orthodox?
It's Eastern Orthodox.
Okay, I was just curious for the
The
distinguishment.
Russian, Byzantine.
Okay.
But
so
anyway,
Chad's a Russian fed.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I stand with Ukraine.
Da.
Whatever I have to say. No, I'm learning Chinese too. So
you're
anyway,
prepping.
I'm prepping for everything. I got all bases covered. I know Spanish, French, a little bit of Italian and Portuguese, and now I'm working on Chinese, and I'm converting to Russian Orthodox. Anyway, no,
Chad,
I'm
you're
working
not
on a
Chad.
degree in Ebonics.
wait, I was getting somewhere with something. Hang on, Nicco. Hold that thought. Now, don't lose it though. So I'm asking the priest afterwards, because there's this thing that it's the filioque. It's the in like Catholics believe that the and state in the creed that the Holy Spirit proceeds from the Father and the Son, and you go back far enough, and that wasn't there. That was inserted later, and the Orthodox Church actually sees it as the Holy Spirit only proceeds from the Father. And I'm asking the priest about this, and oh shoot, Chris bounced.
He's coming.
He's
coming
okay.
back
That
in.
was his comment in the thing. Okay. So anyway, I'm asking him about this, and he says, well, and he goes into like a description and everything, but he says, but I have to ask you, why is that important to you? Because where he comes from and where a lot of like the Eastern Orthodox comes from is like, there's a lot of the theology and like the scholarship of this that's like academic, but really it's about like experiential and relational with God, and like knowing and loving Christ, knowing and loving the Father, knowing and loving the Holy Spirit, and like feeling that, and like having an experience and a relationship with it, rather than just learning more about it so that you can be smarter about it. Like a lot, especially in America, in the West in general, we live up here. And that's where like a lot of the Enlightenment and the Renaissance and like a lot of that stuff was like this, we're smarter than people who think that there's a God. And it's like, are you though? I don't know. Cause like there's a lot of, that's why I appreciate what Rice was saying about like, even if you're not Christian, like to look at it and see like, no, like you can't look at Christ and see anything but like a model for how you should like conduct yourself, how you should live your life, speak truth to power, and speak love to the oppressed, the suffering, and even to the sinful, to the people who spit in your face and who beat you. Speak love to them, because that's again, that back to like the experience and the relationship of like trying to live, for and with God. That's anyway. So it's just kind of interesting, because that's like, I think that's where a lot of this stuff, what you were saying about the earth, like, does that change our experience with the earth on a day-to-day basis? Not really.
Imagine this. I mean, even when we're talking to people like that, and sometimes, I know this is like hard. I'm even saying it to myself, but treating people how you want to be treated.
Absolutely.
Just kind of look at everybody as being you.
Yeah.
Which in a way, it's kind of true.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So I mean, I just think that we
Well, all of us-
should really kind of go with that, and
Mhm.
the more that we do that, the more that we practice that, the more I think that we can evolve to that point where the evolution of the revolution makes sense.
That's
For
right.
sure.
That's right. Yeah,
And-
because we all came at this from a different way, and if we think of like, what if we were talking to ourselves before we got here? Would we talk to ourselves the way that we're talking to this person?
Would you treat yourself the way that you're treating that other person?
Exactly. Being
And that's
kind.
usually a lot of it. Talking,
Yep.
you know, talking is different. The way that you treat people.
Treat them. Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, thank you for that. That's
And to
clarification.
both points, I'm very influenced by Aristotle myself. His book Metaphysics, which is really long and really boring, but massively, massively insightful, especially being that it's about 2,000 years old. Aristotle said that, and this is one of the key philosophers of Western culture. This is a guy that founded a lot of the thought that we see, that we think about today. Aristotle said, without talking about like the thoughts and mind, that educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. That's what he said.
Yeah.
Because we have to have that understanding, and it's why I don't call myself really anything. I find myself being comfortable with the title anarchist, stuff like that, but I don't really like titles of any kind. And they don't, because none of them fit. And that's because I stopped thinking about a lot of these ideas, whether we're talking about the existence and religion and those kinds of things, or we're talking about politics and the interaction between people, those kinds of human action, as Mises would have said. I stopped just thinking about them, and I started looking at it through my heart and knowing what is good and knowing what is, makes me feel good. When somebody does this or that for me, that matters. And that's why, one of the things I think we need to do as we are communicating, and I think that everyone here is good at this, but we need more people doing this, is that we need to stop being so like dramatic and in people's face and just show them the truth. Show them that being peaceful is better.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because that's a problem when somebody thinks that they are superior in knowledge to somebody else, and they're trying to wake somebody up to their knowledge. Sometimes people are doing it in a way where they present themselves as being the almighty knowledgeable individual, and that's a turnoff. When somebody comes up to me and tries to act like they know what the hell they're talking about, and I don't, by implying it by the way they're talking, that's really a big turnoff. And then, on the flip side, where you don't agree with people, just defaulting back to the treat people how you want to be treated. I can tell somebody I don't agree with them, would appreciate their out of the box critical thinking and make it a compliment and still make my statement known without offending and still kind of uplifting at the same time. That's ultimately, you got to think every experience you have with another individual, what kind of impact are you leaving?
Right.
Are you leaving a positive impact? Or are you leaving a negative impact? Or just are you leaving no kind of like real significant impact? And you should really kind of want your interactions to have more of a positive impact. And the more that you practice it, the more I think that you can kind of get onto that, which is my whole thing about practice change.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine if one person in every family, just one person in every family did what you're talking about, one person, and concentrated on spreading love and not fear and hate and all the bull crap that we watch. If you had one person in every single family, every single household who was there to spread love, imagine the impact that would have on the
It would
planet.
be a great impact, because I mean, the best way to show somebody something is not telling them, it's actually doing it.
Right.
Leading by example, and not trying to prove people wrong by your words.
Yeah.
There was this
Assume. Go ahead,
restaurant.
Nicco.
There was this restaurant, and there was this fast food restaurant in Texas, I think. And there was like 75 people back to back paid for the person behind them. And on the 75th one, the employee eyeballed him Like, you're a foul.
He stopped it. He stopped the train.
He stopped the train. But like, if people were to do that more often and like just be courteous and whatnot, it goes a long way. And it's like a smile or a hug to an individual who needs it for that one day.
Sure.
And it's not what you say, it's how you say it too.
Very true.
Which is, I think, a lot. If we choose our words carefully.
It's not as dirty as like knowing that that's happening and getting back in the line and ordering $75 worth of food and going back through again. Just to troll whoever's right in front
You
of
can troll out of love.
Yeah, no, right, yeah.
For sure.
And well, if you go give that to like a homeless shelter or something like that, well, then because the bad thing about that is, and this is sad, like there are a lot of places like that won't take it unless it's like some approved. That's why canned goods is always a thing. They have to be not expired and all this. There's like all these rules. We had a group of farmers here in Louisiana, in New Orleans actually, that they went to one of the New Orleans food banks and dropped off 1,800 pounds of deer meat.
Wow.
They cut the packages open, threw them in a dumpster, and poured bleach all over them.
That's foul.
And wouldn't you allow for anybody
health
else to take advantage of it?
The health department forced them to do that. Because it wasn't like it hadn't been inspected or whatever right.
Like, it's got to go through like a certain
go through this whole
governmental legal process
exactly.
that participates in the commerce world.
That's what I was going to say. What they really mean is you aren't part of our little clique of people who get to donate money and write it off and all that stuff. Yeah. You didn't pay into this system, so you don't get to be part of it.
But even I think if they would have freely donated it without expectation of a write-off, there still would have been an issue.
Oh no, absolutely. Because
they don't want there to be. For one, I don't think they even want like homeless people to be getting real meat, whether it's whether it's venison or not. Because it's like giving them real protein and like might feed their brain to think.
Right. Yeah,
we want you dumb and stupid. So
we want you to have all this processed stuff
to donate.
Exactly. We want it to be like hormones and antibiotics in the meat and everything and all this.
Yeah, that's
stuff.
The idea.
It can't be wild deer.
And to go back with the pandemic stuff, like just kind of circle back around when you bring this up. One of my biggest arguments was if we're not seeing depopulation of homeless people, and I've been in situations where I've chosen to be homeless because I was going to prison. I've seen how homeless people live. I know what it's like. And I know that, you don't have shelters giving people vitamin C. They're multivitamins. I know that some of these people have mental health and drug related issues and they don't care about their health. And they're the most unhealthy. Their immune systems are pretty much shot. You might as well say, like, if you're homeless, you don't have an immune system unless you're like the rare cockroach breed.
Right.
But overall, we didn't see a decline. Here where I live, what we saw was they insinuated that there was a decline. And they started because a lot of the hotels are closed to the public, started getting government assistance to pay for that, to allow for some of the homeless to go into hotels,
exit the streets,
and to house them. But you wouldn't see them on the street. So you're like, oh, what happened to homeless people? They must have died. Yeah. They must have got killed off with the other stuff that was happening.
The magic virus
with the bananas, because it's bananas, man.
For sure. I do need to say though, with all of that said, there is hope, because at the end of the day, and I think I learned this from Michael Malice actually on Glenn Beck. I could be wrong, but that's where I think I learned this. But I learned, because I want to give a source because I don't really know, but I think it was Michael Malice on Glenn Beck. He said that during the Cold War, when Reagan was president, this is the kind of hope that I want to see for people, going back to the idea that, people are generally good. Anyhow, in Russia and in the United States, when Reagan and Gorbachev were in charge, they both independently, the Russians and the Americans, ran a test on that incoming president, whether it's Gorbachev or it's Reagan. And in this test, it was a demo, and the president did not know that this was a demo. They gave them a test that said that the nukes were launched from the opposing team. You know, the Russians were attacking us, or the and vice versa. Neither president pushed the button. Neither one of them.
No,
Neither,
but people grew up in fear. And
Right.
that's something like before my generation, there were people that grew up in fear of that very deal. That's why we had nuclear shelters,
right.
which we don't do those protocols like they did back 30,
Sure.
40, 50 years ago.
Sure. And I'm not heartened that the current leadership of either company, of either team would not push the button. But it gives me hope knowing that those shitbags couldn't destroy the rest of humanity when they knew their part of humanity was about to die. So I think that there is hope for humanity going forward, because even the echelons of the evil that is government couldn't annihilate millions of people. Now, again, I don't have faith that our current piece of shit would have that predilection, but it does give me hope.
Well, I mean, we got to see if people overcoming a lot of this division, because I mean, the people that are coming together is a very small amount of people, and it's not enough. That's why I kind of like I've been really understanding. You mentioned Mark Passio. He talks a lot about the Hermetic principles and the idea of manifestation. And I know we have the power of speaking things into existence. So I'm always trying to speak into existence that when enough people take a stand, nothing can stand against the people.
Absolutely.
And we can literally peacefully, not with conflict, not with violence, change the world. Doesn't have to be like it's been before. You know, I think we've progressed enough as a species that we can just. I said it to G. Edward Griffin, he didn't agree, so I wouldn't say necessarily just stop participating, but we can literally change the world by saying no.
Absolutely.
Historically, you're correct. The thing is, people want to say that no revolution has ever happened without bloodshed. That's bullshit. That there's an entire conflict that happened before the United States existed, called the Bloodless Revolution. It was inspired by John Locke, and it was largely what it was called, was bloodless. There was a revolution. They overthrew the English government, and largely there were, like a couple people died in a town, because they got in a fight and, that kind of thing. But largely, it did not have any kind of death. And so we can get there.
Right, but the majority of what you're talking about ends in bloodshed. And my problem with the word revolution, and that's why I like evolution of the revolution, is because etymology, when you start studying what words mean and where they come from, the word revolution, people don't think about it from a mechanical standpoint, which is like more of like really what truly defines it. And it's just circling back to a point. So why do we want to circle back to a point? Because it seems like anything prior to now is broken. So that's where the evolution comes into play with the revolution, because otherwise we're just going back to something. And I don't think at this point we need to go back to anything.
For sure.
It needs to be it's a great band name. It's not my favorite band at all, but Days of Anew.
Yeah.
We got to start fresh, like literally fresh.
Yeah, and I think also, like, so there's a few things, like you can go back to that old, I won't say the real name of this card deck, this card game that was created, but we'll call it the Occultocracy deck. But they have all these different, we were talking about like the Cold War and all, like, so there's war, there's storms, there's diseases, there's the economic stuff. They kind of rotate through this deck, and depending on what card they pull, they're like, oh, I guess we get to play this one now. And so they try all that stuff, but you do really we have the power, back to like my exploration of my own faith and like my movement towards orthodoxy. Like you were talking about, that we can change the world just by saying no. And if you go back and look, like the Orthodox Church puts a lot of focus on like the lives of the saints, and you look at a lot of these martyrs that they just continue to say no in the face of torture, in the face of mutilation, in the face of death, horrible death.
Well, it's taking a stand. It's a true stand for what you believe in, which we don't recognize today.
Yeah, we don't. We've been so, and so that's what I was going to say. Like what the real trick, the real okey doke that the evil one, the real enemy behind all this stuff, the demonic spirit that really kind of drives all of the evil that we see around us is, man, like we are really susceptible to being comfortable. When we are comfortable, that's the worst. Like, no, like we would really rise up if they were really sticking their foots on our throats. We would really rise up.
Right. Well, I mean,
we're comfortable because they're expecting a savior. All of the superhero movies they've been programmed with.
A lot of people do expect somebody else to say that.
They expect a savior now at this point.
Nicco.
That's why they don't want to stand up. That's why they're susceptible to being comfortable right now. That's why
it's also too. You also got to look at the. What they're pushing in food, genetically modified organisms, fast food. Now they're glorifying obesity.
Yeah,
make
you fat and lazy. And
I'm a little chubby right now, but I wouldn't glorify it by no means. I wouldn't say, "Hey, I'm like I got a sexy dad body." Like I don't want to take my shirt off in public. Like I'm not really proud of the way I look right now. And they're trying to like make it like I should be. Like I should just be able to like Free Willy.
Jeff, shout out to Jeff. He said USDA approved Wellbutrin fed cattle.
Shout out to Green Soylent. Man.
Yeah, right, for sure. Yeah,
shit, man. Yes.
You're right though. In both you and Nicco are right. They're doing so much programming. The good news is about that is that people just don't buy the shit anymore. They just don't. And
less people are buying it.
Yeah,
where it seemed like at the beginning of 2020, it seemed like we were like an extreme minority. And I don't feel such an extreme minority right now.
Right. I had a tweet earlier, I think it was this week, that was absolutely nails this. Someone had agreed with me about something and it had to do with guns, and I can't remember. And they were like, well, it looks like it's you and me. And I told them, I said, no, there are a million of us. And there's a million of us, guys, out there. There are a million people globally who consider themselves an anarchist, a voluntarist, something like that, a libertarian, something that is in our family of beliefs. At
least a million, I would think.
Yeah, look, a million. But
the only thing I would want to promote to connect people is people can check out peoplesrights.org. It is a phone system, app system to connect your local neighbors and people in your local areas, and then connect you with people in bigger areas. And then also freedomcells.org. And I think Freedom Cells is doing a changeover, but Freedom Cells is trying to connect people in different areas, in different specialties, and then connect those smaller cells into bigger cells, and then connect those bigger cells together to create networks. And the more that we can create these alternative networks and alternative means of communication, the more that we're going to be able to make forward moves.
What was the name of the first one that you mentioned?
People's Rights with an S.org. And that was actually created by Emmon Bundy, who's running for governor of Utah, I believe. No, it's not Utah. Where is it? He's running for governor of
Oregon, maybe?
Idaho.
Oh, is it
Idaho? Idaho. Yeah, I knew they were up there. One of those. Yeah.
Well, he was in Vegas when the standoff took place with his family.
Yeah, there was one of the Bundy people was made friends with. I'm trying to remember his name. When we were in New Orleans, made friends with him. I think his name was Robert. I think it's connected to the Bundys. Good dude. But to kind of wrap up what I was saying earlier. Yes, we're numbered in the millions. The problem is statists are numbered in the billions. And so, yes, we're not Lysander Spooner out in the middle of the woods in Ohio going, fuck. We don't have that going on anymore. We're not Emma Goldman getting kicked out of the country because she's an anarchist. We don't have that going on anymore. But there's probably, unless you're in my family, there's probably one other anarchist in this whole town that I live in. So, and so we are definitely a minority, but we are a quick growing minority. I will give you that. Where I'm at is I try to stay hopeful. I fail an awful lot. And right now, I used to envision getting to this freedom and this ideas. 5 years ago, I'd have told you I think it'll happen in my lifetime, and I don't. I do not think that I'm going to see it in my lifetime. but I sure would like to see it in my kids' lifetime.
Mhm.
And so we have to do what we can do, no matter how big, small, whatever thing you can do for your community to reach that, do that. It may be something we've talked about here. It may be
Well,
something we haven't.
It doesn't matter how big or small.
Right.
Everybody has a part to play. Just play your part.
Yeah.
And
Like we
all
said.
combined, all combined, it works in unison. So just play the part that you can play,
Yeah.
the part that's meant for you, and just roll with it. And just, again, whether it's big or small, everything makes an impact. And if you think about this as like a seed, I would love to see these things happen in my lifetime as well.
Mhm.
I love the ideas of anarchy, but do I think that humanity is ready for this right now? Absolutely not. So all I can do is plant seeds and water seeds, and that's the best that we can do, and just hope for the best and just keep being the change and leading by example.
For sure. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we're going to do what we can do. And, it is by supporting each other. Chris, just to kind of gear us down to wrapping this up, I want you to give all of your links. We have we have your YouTube channel, we have your website, and your Twitter down below, as well as the McAfee. But where else can people reach out to you?
I'm on Instagram, Telegram, and Facebook. You can find me my legal name, Chris Rice, on Facebook, and everywhere else you can pretty much find me at Rice TVX. I am also on Odyssey and Library, on BitChute. I started posting recently on Truth Social, mainly to bring attention to the Janice McAfee stuff. It's not necessarily an ideology I agree with. I agree with freedom of speech. So as many platforms that are going to offer me that, I'm going to be there. So
did you have to do a lot of personal disclosure to get an account there? Because I remember there's one of them, maybe Getter was the one that was, they wanted like your license and all this other bullshit. And I was like,
yeah, I didn't sign up for Getter because Getter I thought was like associated with some Chinese stuff.
It was.
And I'm not 100% sure about Truth Social. I mean,
that's
I
Trump's
use
thing, right?
and I use Android, so I don't have an application. I'm just using a website. I didn't even know I could sign up with the website, so it was just something new to me.
Okay, all right.
Like literally in the past week, I signed up, but pretty much everywhere, Rice TVX. And I would definitely encourage people to check out my channel and explore my videos, my playlist section, because I've been around since January of 2018. A lot of stuff goes missed because people don't want to explore my older videos, but I've been doing this for a minute now. Feels like forever. Feels like forever ago since I met you, Marcus.
I know it's been a
Because
minute.
Marcus actually, like my very first interview on my channel, was Adam Kokesh, and had I known that Adam Kokesh would have been such a bad first guest, I might have second guessed myself. Only because YouTube hates that dude so much,
Right.
that I think it set me off on a bad foot. But I'm still thankful for my journey. I mean, I've been able to cross over like 28,500 subscribers, and it feels like 1 million for what I'm dealing with.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right. So real quick, we had a question from the audience. Asked if you could comment further on the etymology of the word revolution. Perhaps revolution refers to going back to universal status before then attempting to rebuild another type of society. Care to tackle that?
The only thing I would say is, what have we had in the world that has worked well enough for humanity to work as a stepping stone to get to that point? So it may be like evolving what we already further know and trying to make like compromises to the point that we can find a universal system. I mean, I definitely don't have the answers. All I can do is try to inspire people. But I will say that when I got involved in cryptocurrency, one of my biggest reasons was to see the end of money as we actually know it.
Right.
So I definitely can't claim to have the answers, but usually with the revolution, we're going back to a certain point. So, which is weird that they used American Revolution in that term, because it doesn't make any sense from an etymological point of view.
Right. It was more of a civil war.
Well, it wasn't
like a
going back to something
transcendence
that was
almost.
before.
Yeah.
So there was no like going back to a certain point, because the creation of the United States as we know it was the first attempt to get away from any sort of sovereignty, like king or
That's why-
queen,
But that's
monarchy.
why I
I should
say.
say. Get
That's
away
why
from
I say
anything.
if you read the Patriot Report, you'll find out that like that was like probably 100 or 200 years in the making of like just the same people, the same money interests were behind like funding the parts of it that like you look at the people who actually and for all the beauty that exists in the Declaration and in the Constitution, there's also you can see the
Moneyed
roots
interest.
the roots of the money interest behind it as well.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying those are perfect
and
documents by no means.
They definitely created something that was like, hey guys, just like with all this stuff that's going on now, it's like, hey, look, this will be so much more convenient. You won't have to carry a wallet around. You'll just be able to do all this stuff. We'll put a chip in you. That'll be so much more
You sound like
convenient.
Justin Trudeau. You might want to stop talking, Chad.
Well, I'm just saying this is how these folks come up with this stuff.
I know,
They're
but
like,
it's not like you were
"It's gonna be
actually
just
like
so much-
literally verbatim, like saying what Trudeau was saying
This
about, hey,
it'll
hey,
be
you
so
people,
much better. Just
listen
and I think
up. Let us control your mind and just shut up.
right,
Right.
But it comes with this like this backdrop of like, no, this is better for you. This is going to make you more free, and
give us more control so you can be more free.
Exactly. And so if you go back to the Constitution, go back to like how that and like how they moved from the Articles of Confederation to the Constitution, and it's like they're like, hey, wait a second, this is like some bullshit. Like, where's our power structure in here? Let's build a different document, and then all of our shit will be installed
that's why I had
in
the
there.
arguments between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists.
Yeah.
Which is obviously the argument where the argument was the Federalists have won. So go back in history, look at the Anti-Federalists, look at their argument, and pay attention to where we're at.
Patrick
today.
Henry is my jam.
And that's kind of my point, is that like I think some of what you were talking about from a revolution standpoint, I don't think it's necessarily incorrect to call that a revolution. It was just they were in the midst of figuring out how they were going to transfer the power from that entity that was controlling and monetizing people to this other one. That's why, like what you were talking about earlier with like the Fed and the Wall Street and the SEC kind of trying to, I think they're seeing like some of their power being taken away by the EMF and by the WEF, the NWO, whatever you want.
All of them things, man.
Yeah, all
the
them things.
WHQO, the ABCDs, the QFGs.
All saying all that to say, let's bring it back to another thing that you said that I thought was really interesting, and something that I wanted to kind of reiterate. What's up, Vic? I see you. Is the idea of Marcus was talking about securing like this stuff for our kids, for the next generation or the generation after, and I would say that part of that is instilling in them that ability and that willingness and that courage and that understanding that it's the right thing to do to say no.
But the best way to do that, Chad, is by example. You can tell your kid everything in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You show your kid,
mm-hmm.
It means a whole lot more. And we're getting to that point.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. And it's funny too, because like we talk about all the comfort and everything. I'm not gonna lie, like part of that is me talking to myself. Like I know I'm too comfortable. I'm more comfortable than I need to be. And I'm what I do a lot of times is I try to fight this fight while not giving up that comfort. And trying to, I guess what, in a way, I'm like, I got one foot in one camp and one foot in the other one, where I'm like, all right, I want to try to make this to where it doesn't destroy everything that we've built lifestyle wise. If I can, but I'm ready to shift my weight to the other square that I've already got a foothold in, to like, all right, I guess we're living in the woods, and we're going to just be like rocking out like that. But I want to try to make sure that we keep our, draw that line in the sand and keep our foot planted here, because I don't know that running away necessarily ends up any other way than we all end up huddled in a corner and they're like
Red
that's
Dawn.
where those guys are, blow them up.
That's Red Dawn stuff. Like what
Yeah.
you need to do is you need to like actually community build. You need, like,
Right.
and if you're not in an area with people that you can build a community with, maybe you might want to consider being in another area.
Yeah,
Right.
true.
And I know there's a lot of people that are trying to do like property shares, where you're buying like, anywhere
Chunks.
between like 5 and 10 acres and maybe splitting that between like 4 to 6 families, something to that effect. So there's ways, it's just a matter of getting away from, because here's the thing. If shit really hits the fan, comfortability is going to be a luxury.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So get used to being uncomfortable. Get used to the uncomfortable and the change and the things you don't like, and be prepared to like flip on a switch, man, because that's where we're at. We don't know what's going to happen. Like they could start deeming us all enemies of the state and start rounding us up into some sort of camp. Who the fuck knows, man?
I agree. And I think that's the point. At the end of what you said about not knowing is the key. We do not know.
Strength in numbers. You by yourself trying to survive is not going to work. We're tribal people, man. We talked about the divine feminine, divine masculine. Well, actually, I talked about that earlier on the stream. I'm sorry.
That's fine. We talk about that here too. So
but the combination of two. So it takes multiple skills and multiple purposes to be able to unify. And when it comes to like prepping, you need to have people that understand things about medicine. You have people understand things about a lot of different areas, and not everybody is specialized. So that's where group play really comes into an importance. And that's why people's rights.org and Freedom Cells, it's a really freedomcells.org is a really good way of like bringing people together.
For sure.
Awesome.
And isn't Freedom Cells put together by Derek Bros?
Derek Bros, I'm drawn to John Bush, and John Bush I think is the main culprit, but I think there's other individuals. I think Bros kind of came on and he had more of a bigger name in the alternative media to help bring attention to it.
Yeah.
And I think they're modifying the website and are launching Freedom Cells 2.0 if I'm not mistaken. So
Cool.
But it's another way of connecting people up. I was really impressed with what they were creating, and those are the two biggest resources. And I've been trying to get John Bush on. We've just been having big conflicts of schedule because he's almost as busy, if not more busy than I am.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your time with us, and
let's do it more often.
I agree. You're a very good guest. You're a very good host too. If people have not checked out, you're a very good. I have a very little time, and it is not common that I catch a lot of podcasts or YouTube channels or all of those. You're one of the few that I catch relatively frequently, and that's because you have a very good interview style. I like the way that you interview, and for people that haven't known Chris that well or haven't known me, that's not something that I would say about everybody. And
no, it means a lot to me. I know that, and I was going to say that it means a great deal because I know how you are. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But
he's an asshole. That's what you were saying, right, Chris?
right.
I know how you are. Yeah,
I'm the whole ass, man. Don't limit me to the little piece.
He's right. He's right. He's the whole package.
Yeah, right. Oh man,
right.
But,
left,
but
cheek and all.
Yeah, for sure. But go check out his channel. He has a bunch of really good content. Definitely check out the McAfee interview. I personally like the Passio one, but some of the older ones too, where you cover some of the conspiracy theories. Those are really good. And one of the things that I like about Chris particularly is that he's open-minded, but he likes proof. And I like that.
The open-minded skeptic.
Yeah,
but that's great. That's that's how we all should be, honestly. Like it's crazy how we've evolved or devolved into this world of like people who they'll believe anything they hear as long as it comes from the sources that they have already like blindly trusted.
Right, but what sucks about that too is I have to accept the fact that not everything has factual proof
Yeah,
and
proof.
things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But there are, but when you're talking about certain things that I'm smart enough to know that
Mhm.
there should be some truth,
Right.
then I'm gonna push. I'm gonna push until I get it.
Yeah, some of it you can just go through like philosophical proofs. Like, okay, so let's think of all the things that it would take to make this actually true.
Right.
And where, does this satisfy that? Does it trip up somewhere along the way? All right, well then let's dig into that. And it doesn't even necessarily mean like it has to be like hard physical evidence or anything like that, but you can kind of use your bullshit sensor for a lot of that stuff. So just having that what you said is a perfect way to describe it. The open-minded skeptic is a beautiful way of putting it. And I have to say, I appreciate what you did coming on here and providing like solutions and helping to speak to that, because that's what we're all about. That's what we have been
Well, that's
talking
what I
about
say
for
we
2
should do.
years.
I mean, I don't mean to interrupt, man, but
No,
I
you're
really
good.
feel like we should do this definitely more often, because I feel like when I'm coming to my show and I don't know if I'm going to be on it again, I got to get a bunch of information out. And there's
Yeah.
so much that we have not touched on that I can like,
All right.
there's so many areas that I can cover. I'm really ADD and OCD.
Nice.
So
What you should
Fit
do,
in right well here.
yeah, for sure. What you should do, really, Chris, is what would you like to talk to Agrarian Anarchy about? Do you want to talk about conspiracies and blah, 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 blah? Do you want to talk about crypto and blah, 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 blah? About it, man.
I would love to do a focused episode about anarchy, because you talked about getting rid of labels, and that's one label that I've decided to shed.
Nice.
Not publicly go around and just tell people I'm an anarchist, because socially the word has been tainted so much, especially over the past few years, with various movements. Not to like say anything that's going to get anybody in trouble, but I'm pretty sure people can get ants with the EFAs and things like that.
Yeah.
So I just don't want to be associated with something like that. And to me, there's bigger battles for us to choose. And also there's a bunch of poser ass anarchists who want to start using the word voluntarist because they don't want to use the word anarchist because they're afraid of what I just said.
Right.
And I just rather shed the label, because I'm much more than that.
Awesome.
Okay.
Like we said, we could go on and
Let's
on
set
and
it up.
on and on.
Let's set
Well,
it
I
up.
think
Nicco,
that
you
might
got
actually
anything?
fake ass Christians, but Mark Passio needs to do a fake ass anarchist presentation.
For sure.
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them mofos.
Oh, I'm telling you, but we could go on.
Yeah, no, we can go on forever. That's why I said we gotta do this more often.
Nicco,
For
you
sure.
got anything before we bounce?
I appreciate it, boss man. I am not very privy to your discography, but I most definitely appreciate the way that you dropped info. So I'm most definitely gonna check it out.
Check out my. I mean, you're a Hotep fan, right?
Yes, most definitely.
You're the Hotep connection, if I'm not correct, right?
Well, yeah,
Well,
I'm
if I'm correct.
No, Chad is, but
So okay, Chad. Okay, so Hotep's the good people, man, and Hotep, I've had him on my show a couple times, and he's gonna be back on soon. So I would, check out some of the Hotep conversations, because me and him align very well.
Yeah.
okay.
A lot of people wouldn't think that, but me and him are very much on par.
Yeah.
Right.
I was really glad to see you guys link up in person in Miami too. That was really cool.
Me too, man. And he wanted to interview me before that, because we were hanging out during Dead Mouse. We talked a couple times, but we were hanging out. I had some medicinals, and he was participating, and we were dancing and having a good time. And he had a film guy, but he wanted to interview me the day before, and I had about an hour and a half before I saw him. I had a heat stroke issue.
Oh no.
And it was like completely brain fogged. I was like, I cannot be on camera doing an interview. So, but he has been nothing but cool as hell. Not that I didn't expect anything less, but yeah, he sent me a copy of the book, and I appreciate that. It's a great book. He's good people. I appreciate him spreading the messages. I appreciate him getting on the anarchy bus and starting to understand what anarchy is about.
That was Chad.
I mean, it's a big thing. I mean, because people don't realize, and this is the last thing I'll say because I know I'm rambling, but if you don't have a king or a queen, or you don't have somebody that is your ruler and that you look up to is like, no, I listen to this authority figure and they're sovereign above me, then you are an anarchist. Because the simplest way to explain what anarchy is the opposite of what a monarchy or monarchist is. And if you live in the UK, then you're a monarchist. You can't call yourself an anarchist and live in the UK.
Right.
Here we have, I guess, like an oligarchy, but I don't identify them as shit. So I don't participate in a reindeer game. So
That's why we call ourselves anarchs. That was Marcus's thing. We are self-owned and self-ruled, and we try to, obviously we have there's certain practical limitations to what you can, we're not living in anarchy, obviously, but we do what we can to express and to assert our self-ownership.
Well, what I think helps the most is, with this AA meeting that we're having here today.
I know.
Which is what you should be calling these things,
That's
AA
hilarious.
meetings.
Oh, for sure.
Having that first
we need to come up
word,
with 12 steps. That's a good thing.
The
I'm
first
doing
A
it.
before the anarchy, I think really helps to help what you guys are doing. Because if it was just something else, anarchy, it may not have the same.
That's all Marcus, man.
Right.
That's all
So
Marcus.
when I think of Aquarian, I think about enlightenment and knowledge and growing. So when I think about Aquarian anarchy, I can't associate it with the ant of the EFAs. So
right.
sure.
Right. Yeah, for
Well,
sure.
again, really appreciate you coming on the show. You're a fantastic guest. Again, anybody that wants to look up stuff, it's Rice TVX on everything pretty much, and you can see many links down below, especially that petition for Janice McAfee. Thanks again for coming on. Been wonderful as always. And Chad, you ready?
Yep.
Everybody, stay free.